Hello to all the gamers out there in YouTube land, and welcome to another fantastic edition of the Almost Gaming Vlog. I am Sean, your host and fount of Gaming Info. On today's show, Microsoft takes over a venerable gaming franchise, Sony has plans to reboot the Vita, Nintendo might have plans to break out of their console funk, is the Steam console actually moddable, and video games give us a super prediction. Let's press start and jump right in. We start with Nintendo. It's well known that Nintendo's console, the Wii U, has been struggling, leading the company to revise down some of their financial forecasts, which in turn caused their stock to tank. Though FYI, the stock returned to normal levels a few days later once the panic wore off. On the other hand, Nintendo's handheld, the 3DS, has been dominating. But is Nintendo looking to revive their console dominance by replacing both? Now, I want to heavily disclaimer this rumor. This report comes from a website called Nintendo News, who say that they received a tip from an anonymous but very reputable source. However, when pressed on info on the source by Kotaku, Nintendo News said they don't actually know who the source is, just that they've gotten good information from them in the past. So, all of this could be coming from some random Joe who just happened to get lucky in the past. Okay, all that said, here we go. Nintendo News is reporting that Nintendo is already working on a replacement for the Wii U. The device is codenamed Nintendo Fusion and builds off the idea that Nintendo is considering combining their handheld and console departments. Basically, the Fusion would be a console, the Fusion Terminal, and a handheld, the Fusion DS. The idea seems to be similar to what a lot of people were hoping for when they first saw the Wii U. A console controlled by a device that can also be taken away from the home and used as its own portable gaming handheld. Now, I'm not really a tech guy, so I'm not going to bore you with the details, but suffice it to say that if the specs listed for the Fusion are true, Nintendo has definitely learned their lesson about using weaker hardware. The listed guts of the Fusion blow the Xbox One and PS4 out of the water. Now, I'm not sure what effect this would have on cost, but the Nintendo News article does say that some of the listed hardware items seem to be focused on keeping the unit affordable. Lending credence to this rumor is the fact that NintendoFusion.com, a website that Nintendo purchased for the Nintendo Fusion Rock Music Tour of the early 2000s, has had its Whois database record updated, meaning that Nintendo is doing something to that website. Now, this is a very interesting rumor, and it's definitely lit the internet on fire. However, it's equal parts intriguing and strange. Nintendo's console market definitely needs some help, and while ditching the Wii U barely a year after its launch date does reek of desperation to a nearly Sega level, I do think that they could be forgiven for pulling that move once. However, it's kind of questionable for Nintendo to do anything in the handheld area. The 3DS is still dominating that arena, and even if the Fusion DS and 3DS were out simultaneously, that would still take away from some of the 3DS's market share. But this rumor is definitely worth keeping your eyes on. Speaking of the handheld market, let's go over to Sony. As I just said, Nintendo's 3DS has been dominating the handheld market, but apparently Sony is ready to do something about that. They have been teasing an upcoming press event for the Vita. The teaser says, following the biggest launch in PlayStation history, join us for an introduction to the slimmest. Now, it's far too early for us to expect the PlayStation 4 Slim, and Sony has already launched a PS Vita Slim in Japan. So it's really not a big stretch of the imagination to expect that this announcement is going to be the launch of the PlayStation Vita Slim in America. Now, Sony has also launched the PS Vita TV in Japan, a device that allows you to play Vita games on your TV and some other features. As website GearNoot points out, while that device hasn't done so well in Japan, it could go over a lot better in the United States. Various Twitter accounts associated with Sony have also started buzzing about an outcome to Sony's #JRPG Vita campaign. So we'll see if these announcements help the Vita reclaim some of the 3DS's massive market share. Let's move over to PC gaming and the Steam box. When it was announced that Steam machines would be made by a variety of third-party manufacturers, it almost went without saying that famed gaming PC maker Alienware would get in on the action. Interestingly though, Alienware has gone towards the lower end of the price scale. They've done this by cramming all of the components into a smaller than console's case, and by saying that instead of it being upgradable, they would be releasing new versions of this machine every year. To say that PC gamers are obsessed with modding is probably putting it severely lightly. So, as you can imagine, this news raised a little bit of an uproar. But Alienware have come out and say that they didn't mean to say that you cannot upgrade this machine. They're not going to do anything to prevent people from modifying the unit. All they meant to say is that the closed-in nature of the case would make adding new components to it difficult. But, as Kotaku said, that just seems like a challenge. Let's round to the home stretch with Microsoft. The Gears of War franchise has been, for better or worse, a frontier leader in the field of third-person shooters. However, it's become a bit unclear whether Epic Games was going to keep the franchise exclusive to Microsoft or allow the cogs to venture over to Sony. Well, that question has been answered, rather emphatically. Microsoft just announced that they have purchased the property outright from Epic Games. They've also hired Rod Ferguson, who is the former director of production for Gears at Epic. Black Tusk Studios will continue developing the games. They'll just now work with Microsoft directly and Ferguson. There have been no announcements on a new Gears game, but you can be sure that this purchase has just secured the future of the franchise and gotten everybody stable. Now, work can begin in earnest on a brand new Gears of War game for the Xbox One. Sorry, Sony gamers, Marcus Phoenix is a Microsoft man. And now for our featured story. We're going to cross the vlog streams a little bit here and do a sports story involving video games. Every year, Electronic Arts runs a simulation of the Super Bowl using their latest Madden NFL video game. And the game has done a very good job, going 8-2, picking the winner in the last 10 years, 7-3 against the point spread. The game predicts two things that would be a Super Bowl first. The first is snow. The game is being played in New Jersey, but the current forecast only calls for a 20% chance of snow. As Kotaku points out, the game seems to be hardwired for the forecast to be snow anytime the Super Bowl is in New Jersey. The other first that the game is predicting is overtime between the two #1 seeds in the NFL. However, the game predicts another ring for Peyton Manning, calling for a 31-28 Broncos win. So, how many of you will be watching the game to see if the prediction comes true? And how many of you will instead be playing your own Super Bowl? So you can, for example, imagine that the Miami Dolphins are in it. Well, kids, that's going to do it for another edition of Almost Gaming. Make sure to like the video by clicking the like button right down below, subscribe so you can see Almost Gaming every week, and share this video with your video game liking friends. Remember to look for us on Facebook and Twitter, and stay tuned for Extra Lives, the blooper reel. Thanks so much for watching. Game on! Hello, gamers. On today's show, I don't know, just gaming stuff. And is the Steam Dagnabbit on the and a handheld, the Fusion D. Let's go over to Sony. Thinking too hard, losing the line. So it's not really a stretch to expect the American announcement/launch of the PS Vita Slim. Yes! Forget your line. Of the PS Vita Slim in America. TV. And Sony has already they've also hired Rod Ferguson, the former director of production at Epic Studios, Epic Games. Rod Ferguson, who is the former director of production for Gears at Epic. Subscribe to the channel to see all the latest videos. I don't say that, see?